That is game over the minute you do it.
For, say, a 26-year-old who's just starting the business, what's your tip? How should they introduce themselves?
So there's a difference of how you introduce yourself and how you want to be introduced. And then there's a bigger difference of whether you actually want to focus on yourself first or on the other person. Most people at most conferences or events, the statistic is 70% of people, they meet you, they meet me, and they just talk at us for 5 minutes as if we asked them to tell us everything about their lives, and then they leave, and we don't remember them.
Let's take an example, like how would David introduce himself?
Honestly, like if I say, I'm a best-selling author that runs a global community and a startup founder just completed his second round and I'm going to miss my opportunity. If you say who I am, and I say something like, I've been a musician my whole life in a field that no one seems to understand, which is being a connector. If you say to everyone, I'm working on something, I'm really passionate about it, can I come back to you in 3 months and show you? And if you could think of people I should meet now to share what I'm going to build, could you introduce me?
You have hundreds of contacts, LinkedIn, WhatsApp, social media, everywhere. But when you actually need help, you freeze. You don't know who to reach out or call. My guest today has built an AI startup to solve exactly the same. David Homan, he is founder and CEO of Orchestrated Connecting. David, welcome to the show. Really glad to have you here.
Thank you. I'm really pleased to be here.
So, David, let's get started. I'm really curious to know about, like, people say you need to build network, and you say orchestrated connecting. What's the difference?
There's a difference in building a network and an intentional and purposeful community. And so when you say in your intro, like who really has your back, who of all your contacts will actually be there for you, when you've built trust with people around you, then you have a community, not when you're in a place of abundance and everything going well, but when you really need it. A network is way more superficial and just there to exist to maybe match opportunities.
So, you mean to say basically you surround yourself with people who are more connected to you rather than superficially connected?
I surround myself with people where my instincts are based on shared trust, vulnerability, curiosity, and action that I actually know that they would deliver for me or the people that I love and trust because they've already proven it over and over again, as have I. There's a difference of having met somebody or went to school with them or worked with them and somebody who's shown up when you need it, made an intro that got you a job, got you into a conference that got you to the investor for your startup or got you as a guest spot on a podcast. If we judge the world based on those that took action on our behalf, it's a very quick filter of who's there for you as opposed to who's not.
So tell us about, like, this startup of yours. How does orchestrated connecting help? Like, how does it work actually?
So, Orchestrated Connecting is a private community. It has one specific person in it, which is somebody called a connector. That is somebody who spends their world and their life making introductions, building relationships, most often not for their own benefit, but to benefit others. So I run a global network that has 2,600 active people in 35 countries and 189 cities, all of whom have one code. And this is the behavioral psychology part of my work. They are action-oriented, natural givers that I would leave my children with. And that's a high bar, but therefore it creates the highest level of trust amongst people who build trust at massive scales.
So how do you convince people to come on such a platform when there are so many platforms like LinkedIn available for building professional networks?
So if you or I were at an event together and I said, this is somebody that I know, he's a LinkedIn first degree contact, who listening is going to go, oh, they must really know each other? If I say you follow me on Instagram, where we've been Facebook friends for 6 years, we think these metrics matter. They don't actually
Yeah.
matter. What matters
Okay.
is if I say, this is my colleague Piyush. He interviewed me on a podcast. I heard from 10 of his guests. One of them helped 3 of my friends with work that they're doing back home and in India. And from that, we've now been in touch for several years. He's recommended me a few other podcasts to get on, and I've brought him a couple really substantial guests that have increased his ratings and really helped him address his goal of getting those that are taking the early parts of their careers and turning it into something that is much more intentional. Would you like to meet him? Of course, we know the answer, which is if I were to introduce you with the power of story, somebody will take that call or talk with you. If I introduce you based on the metric that LinkedIn or these others capture, the only thing they capture, we don't find those actually meaningful.
That's actually interesting. So you spoke about introduction, right? And you also always speak about like introduction is the most important part, and you should not waste it, right? For say a 26-year-old who's just starting the business, what's your tip? How should they introduce themselves?
So there's a difference of how you introduce yourself and how you want to be introduced. And then there's a bigger difference of whether you actually want to focus on yourself first or on the other person. Most people at most conferences or events, the statistic is 70% of people, they meet you, they meet me, and they just talk at us for 5 minutes as if we asked them to tell us everything about their lives. And then they leave, and we don't remember them. The people that we remember, whatever age, but especially as you're building your career, are the ones who were curious, who showed empathy and vulnerability, who showed insight, who showed actual curiosity. And that distinguishes when I meet people left and right at events or conferences who rises to the top and who I would then choose to spend more time with. So when you're introducing yourself, you have to think all the time, did somebody actually ask me everything I'm talking about? Or how can I turn this around to actually ask them a question, which is unfortunately
So
rare, but the best strategy.
So you mean instead of going there and dumping everything about yourself, you just could say your name and basically be curious to know about the person in front.
Uh, why not? I mean, that is exactly it. If you spend your time wanting to know how to help people or wanting something from people and you know nothing about them, you are starting at the worst place possible. If you understand somebody, if you build trust, you know that their needs, and then if from that you can take any action to help them, you rise not only to the top of their estimation, but somebody they might spend time and energy to support as well.
So let's take an example like how would David introduce himself?
So when people meet me, um, I have to clarify a few things, but I'm really trying to get a sense of who the person is first. So let's say you and I are just sitting, we meet at a conference, and you just go up to me, and let's say you're not good at interviewing, which you obviously are, and you say, "Who are you?" Um, Honestly, like if I say I'm a best-selling author that runs a global community and a startup founder just completed his second round and blah 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 blah, like it's gonna sound stupid, to be honest. It's I'm gonna miss my opportunity. If you say who I am and I say something like, I've been a musician my whole life in a field that no one seems to understand, which is being a connector. So I live in a world where no one listens to my classical music and no one understands what the power of connection is. What about you? The fact I gave something that's actually personal to me, and these are two things true about me, and turned it right back to you, what you say back proves whether you or I should really deepen the conversation or just keep it short and sweet. Because if I said I'm a composer, but no one listens to my music, a question is, well, what type of music do you write? Or my aunt loved classical piano. What do you play? If I say I'm a connector and you don't know what it is and you ask, the minute something that I say sparks curiosity in the other, you have a huge gauge to understand, is that person going to actually engage with you or just be looking through you?
Wow, that will be a game changer. Like, instead of, having those professional lines and very polished lines, you just connected on a human level, right? And being humans, we are vulnerable, we make some mistakes, and maybe that is something that they might also have experienced in their life and they could connect, and easily that's a, conversation starter.
It is. Can I go a little bit deeper though?
Yeah.
So I was at a family office event, which is a
Yeah.
very specific world of wealth I've happened to be very active in for the last 15 years. I am not a family office or a next gen, but a huge part of my network is. So I was doing an event in LA. I ran a panel on Hollywood. So three friends that I know through my community who are all Hollywood producers. And in that, right, I was trying to be completely clear about why I convened the panel and everything going on. And then afterwards, these two people came up to me. They wanted to, honestly, they wanted to talk to me to get to the guy who produced Pretty Woman, or another friend whose late father was one of the most famous comedians on the planet. And they both walked up, and the one that I ended up liking said, how are you feeling after your panel? And I said, honestly, I'm having a really hard time. Like my whole ability to be a public speaker all comes from my father. And this is the first time since he passed away last December that I've been on a stage. And all I could think of is, I'm so glad he taught me all of this. And all I could think of is, he's dead. And there was this silence. And then the person next to him goes, well, what's it like to work with Ray Dalio? I saw that on your resume. And the person that I ended
Wow.
up sidelining with goes, my dad passed 15 years ago. I still think about him every day. Do you want to grab lunch? Right? I'm audacious,
Right.
right? I'm courageous to say the truth, which is my dad passed this past December 1st. And one person, they're worth about $15 billion. I scratched off of my life because they were opportunistic in a time of vulnerability for me. And the other person who I didn't know their wealth, I didn't know much about them, I had a lunch. This has built a friendship within the span of an hour. They're actually way more connected and way more powerful. But our bond is them helping me grieve for my father. The opportunity may come, but we will still stay relational as opposed to a transaction, which is often when people network, which is why I don't like that word. They network for something through me as opposed to seeing me.
Okay, so it has to be relational, not transactional. That is what I understand. And basically, you need to connect with people, right? It cannot be like, okay, I am this, these are blah blah blah, my product and service. If you wish to take my product or service, do get in touch with me. That's game over, right?
That is game over the minute you do it.
Yeah.
Whereas if you can get the next meeting, then you can build a relationship. And when you do that over and over again, you build a reputation of being higher integrity, actionable, intentional, well liked. And then it's not just your card, but 20 other cards sitting in somebody's stack with 1,000 emails to answer and wondering why they didn't get back to you.
And David, what happens is like, when we are going into these networks, right, or any conferences, the thing that keeps running at the back of our minds is, I am here to do more business, right? I am here to get more meetings. So we forget about the relationships part, right? Because even before someone gives you a business, they need to know you properly, right? So that we don't invest time into. We just look into, pitching ourselves in front of others.
And I get right. And a lot of people listening go, well, that's my need. I have to feed my family. I have to build my career. I have to make
Yeah.
it work. But if everyone's screaming for the same thing, no one gets the thing. And
Yeah.
in my world, I go and I say, who am I going to meet today? Who am I going to be curious about? Who am I going to build trust with and try to help? And I walk into that in every meeting, every conference. And then surprisingly, now, not actually, I meet the keynote speaker. I meet the conference organizer. I meet the person everyone wishes they could meet because somebody else I built trust with introduces me to them. This is David.
Right.
He had me on a panel in LA, and then I got somebody who helped produce my film. And that what it's just the whole goal, right, is to get to the idea that when somebody can tell a story about you, about being with you, we instantly want to help those people gravitate. It makes us memorable, which is the real goal in any short interaction.
Superb, superb. And David, let's talk about SOAR AI, right? So how did the idea came from?
So I've spent a decade trying to find technology that actually works. I use LinkedIn. It is a really great product in many ways, as is all the innovations in tech. So I don't want to discount them because I built my tech on the backs of some amazing giants. But here's the problem. No tech I've ever found aggregates how I know somebody. I WhatsApp them. I'm LinkedIn connected. I've emailed them 15 times. I've spent 6 hours in meetings. I've known them 8 years. When you aggregate all that and you can understand, and this is a very sophisticated algorithm we built, that was the first of the two that we did, you can actually map out how long you've known somebody and their trust score to you. And so when we try to think about being memorable, technology can actually quantify through an understanding of time, how you spend your time, and how that's measured compared to everyone else you know. And so when AI can take any data that exists and figure it out for you, AI can do a lot of tasks for you. It can't build trust, but it
Yeah,
can augment
absolutely.
what you do after you've built that trust.
Okay. Let's go a little deeper into that. I have a network of say 4,000 people, right, on LinkedIn. 4,000 people have connected to me on LinkedIn. I don't go and reach out to 4,000 people every day, right?
Nope.
One day I have a need, right? Say for example, I'm looking to hire somebody, or I'm looking for some special kind of services or product or something like that, which I need help with in my life, right? Maybe in my business or in my personal side. So I reach out to my network and ask, hey guys, do you know somebody who is basically who basically does this thing, right? For many people this is also a challenge because they are introverts. They feel shy about asking to their network or community about things.
Let me give you a real life example that a friend made of me who's an incredible human. Um, I'm going to leave his name and some of the people off of this because what he does is also incredibly private. But a buddy of mine, he takes down child sex trafficking rings throughout Southeast Asia. He has taken down a major one, which means tens of thousands of kids forced into sexual prostitution are now reunited, being educated, their traumas being healed. They now have a path to the future because of one buddy of mine. So this is his passion. This is a big deal one, but I want you to
Yeah.
understand why the tech helps. So I've known him 9 years. We were reconnected recently through a mutual friend at an event, and we sort of fell off, because of that thing called COVID. And then we catch up, and he's really, really struggling to like make an ask, even though he's a very high powered, amazing guy. So I say to him, like, can you tell me what your passion is next and how I can help you amplify it? This is what I call the impact ask in my book. And he immediately shifts from I need to here's my passion and purpose. And he goes, here's what I want to do to protect women and girls. And I said, who do you need to meet? And he goes, and he names a very prominent um, former major CEO, an Indian woman. And I go, okay. He pauses. He's like, what do you mean, okay? I was like, I know the family. The daughter's my friend. Like, and he sits there, like, not understanding I have a direct, trusted connection to this person. He's needed that connection for 5 years. And no technology, even though we've been connected for 9, could help him understand. He already built the trust with me. All he needed to do was put that name into a system, and the system would ping me and say, hey, do you want to answer this ask from your friend? And do you want to connect him to somebody else that you trust? This is the innovation that I built with SOAR Connect. SOAR stands for Strength of Authentic Relationships, because it takes what is private and systematically builds opt-in and consent to connect with intent. So anybody going in with your example, I need business. Okay, what's your business? What happens when people consume your business? How do they benefit? How do you benefit? What do you do when your business does better? Once you get into the passion of it, the reason that most of us have to just not just work without any purpose or goals, Then you shift the narrative, and then those links can become more readily available, easier to make as you build more relationships with new people.
One question, David, I'm just curious about, how do you ask people without overstepping?
Everything in this modern era, although current politics makes it seem like it's not the same, everything's with consent. If you make an ask of me and I want to hear your ask, that's the first permission. Then, if the system shows me people who could help you, including me, and I make that ask of them and they agree, then that's the second permission. And so it was connecting in the first place, agreeing to hear your ask, and then I or my network agreeing to help you with your ask. If you are opting in at every point, then no one is ever overstepping because there's no cold calls, there's no blind intro. You are taking the process that respects people's time and giving them choice. And once you make a choice, once a potential investor for my startup agrees to take a meeting with me, especially an in-person meeting, the likelihood that they will invest or introduce me to other investors is 90%. But I have to get to the consent. If not, they heard it, they saw a little demo. Do they want to consent to talk about getting involved? And half the time or more, they say this isn't the right fit for them. But the person that they get me to next, you should talk to Tom. That person has a high likelihood of being an investor because that investor is introduced by somebody they know to say, I've just spent time with this person. I love what they're doing. It's not a fit for me, not the right stage. I'm over deployed, but I think you would, respecting your time, I think this is worth it. This is how relationships actually work, and there can be transaction while being relation. We just approach it only with, where's my transaction? Can you get to me? Will you fund my startup? Will you fund my business? Will you buy my product? And everyone's asking the same thing. I pause.
Yeah, nice. That's really good insight for especially the new entrepreneurs who are trying to go out there and reach out to people, right? So uh, let's talk about your entrepreneur journey, David. So how was the first year like in SOAR AI?
Uh, It seems so fun. Oh, you're a founder. You can't wait to build something. Tech's really hard to build. When you
Yeah,
try to go to vision to reality, like you were thinking of a vision, that is the reality that is like 10 years later in some other company's journey. So that first clunkiness is like when my kids are doing art and like they see like a Picasso and then they draw something and it looks like, me blind scribbling a little bit, like it's not the reality. So as a founder, it's really hard to understand your full vision and figure out the limitations for which you have to get things done. And then
and
as a founder, everything gets delayed
yeah,
and you're always struggling to figuring out how is my life going to work in a year when I'm not sure how this is going to work in a month.
exactly. That is what is going on in every entrepreneur's mind. Especially what happens is when you get a new idea, right? You think that you have like, the world's best idea. And then you spend some time, effort, energy, and basically money in building that idea, right? And after that you go to the market, and then the market tells you, hey, listen, these are the 10 other products or services or companies which are providing the same that you are providing, right? And they are better than you. Has that happened with you?
It hasn't happened with me for one reason. I did not want to be a founder. I wanted to find something that worked for me running a successful global network, and nothing worked for me. I tried them all. I met some of those people. Some of them are in my own community, and
Yeah,
nothing worked the way I needed it to work. So I reverse engineered my community approach, which is that consent and opt-in that we just talked through.
yeah,
And
yeah,
and I realized that there needed to be a huge amount of data that was private for each person. Not give your data for a company, then they'll give you back something that lets you connect with friends or find jobs or be followed.
yeah.
But something that was only good for you, that you needed. And there's been insane demand for something like this because no one's approached it that way. The nuance is what I'm building is a system. It's not a better address book. It's not something where you tell AI something and it spits it back to you. It's an
Yeah.
entire ecosystem, because every company that existed before has solved a part of that problem. My summation, because I've not launched this to great commercial success yet, is that when you systematize what I know has worked for 11 years, then there's a high likelihood that that system, when augmented by AI and technology, can work at scale.
Nice. And in this, like, in while you started SOAR AI, right? How was the cash flow looking for the first 2 years?
You got to keep in mind, for everyone listening, I have spent a decade building thousands of relationships with people everyone else wants to meet. So when I went to
Yeah.
raise my friends and friends round, because I don't have family that can invest, um, I raised almost $600,000 in about 9 weeks. And that got me a year and a half
Wow.
into my product. When I just closed my pre-seed, the first part of it, for another 500,000, that took me 11 weeks. Many groups are taking 12 to 18 months to raise in this environment. But I have several things people don't. I have relationships I've built with wealth holders and investors, often for a decade or 20 years, for which I've never asked them anything. I have thousands of people that I have leaned in and I have helped, who are family offices or angel investors. And I have a proof of what I've done for a decade leading up to it. So to answer that question, I need to qualify it, because although I have lower cash in the bank now and we're raising another round, like, we've been able to fund everything that we need. We've been able to take a very patient 14-month period of design, ideation, then build, and get to it, because I didn't have to have the rush. I was able to maintain my business while starting that ideation phase from idea to actual product. Um, so it's been easier than most, but it is still terrifying to not know whether this will be your job next year, whether it'll be worth a couple $1,000,000 or whether it be worth nothing, whether you talked it all up and made everyone believe and then it's likely to fail. All I know is I know how to do one thing. I know how to trust people and build relationships, and I do it at a really high level on a global scale. And if people can't see me as the thing to map to augment, then they wouldn't invest in me in the first place.
Okay, great. So basically, the first 2 years, not that not that pressure of cash flow at the back of your mind, because you already had some great relationships with people over the decade, 2 decades time, and that really helped you to raise funds faster, right? Rather than being worried about how am I going to run this for the next 1 year, where my product is going from ideation to market validation, right? Because that is the hardest part of any entrepreneur's life, because you have money coming from nowhere, right? You have to run your house, you need to put food on the table, and then basically you need to believe in your idea and work towards it, where you are saying that you're not getting anything at the end of the month, right?
Yeah. And this is why, for many of the entrepreneurs that I mentor, for those that I know, what I've always said is, whenever you feel the need to start your company, like, start it. That's not what I've said, but what I have said is, think about all the trusted relationships you have and keep building them during that journey before you need something from them. If you're going to be heads down coming with your idea and then come heads up and start to pitch everyone, not the best choice. If you say to everyone, I'm working on something, I'm really passionate about it, can I come back to you in 3 months and show you? And if you can think of people I should meet now to share what I'm going to build, could you introduce me? And then every entrepreneur spent even a fifth of their time just meeting people, not pitching, but getting to know them, learning what they like, maybe helping them. Then when they come to that point where they're ready for their round, you understand first who wants to be pitched, and you've built a wider network you can pitch to than when you come out and say, I have my deck, I need to raise. Do you know anyone? Here's what I need. Here's what I need. It's the same thing as going to those conferences and just pitching yourself and thinking everyone was waiting to hear you. I built the
Nice.
relationship first for
That's
10 years, but practically, this is what it takes. You have to focus on relationships before you need something.
and David, one any funny incidents that you remember from SOAR AI, like any customers funny incident that you remember that had happened?
I mean, our current user journeys for the 19 alpha users that are testing this, like these are all serious
Yeah,
questions. Um,
yeah,
and we're looking at all the data of people, but here's what happens, right? Um,
yeah,
so we collect for each individual. We don't store it. We just provide it to them. So everyone has their top 5 connections. These are the
yeah.
people that you message the most, you've known the longest. The volume is usually insane. For one of them, I had 14,000 text messages. I had thousands of hours. One of the highest rated people who kept showing up in the searches as if I could ask her for help. It's my ex-wife. So we had to come up with something called the X factor, where you could take somebody because we co-parent. And like my ex is a lovely human. We just didn't work as a couple anymore. And we
Yeah.
have 2 lovely kids. But no, she's not going to help me. There
Absolutely.
are reasons. So we had this massive psychology, all these different things, and then we thought, oh my God, the person you had such a strong relationship with that you maintained could be an ex-employee, an ex-girlfriend. In some
Yeah.
cases, somebody had disowned their father, but he kept showing up in the tech. So we had to have this penalty where you could take that score and you could basically like chop it in half. So the person is still connected with you. They'll respond to you, but it's not the first person the tech thinks of when you need help from somebody like them.
Wow. Wow. That must be something to know, right?
And everyone had the story, but because these are friends using my tech and investors using the
Yeah.
tech, they didn't just say it was the X. Like one of them was like, "Oh my God, he keeps calling me and sending me pics of my kid with an empty seat at the table and like going to the." I'm like, now I'm getting into their personal life from a user
Yeah.
journey.
Yeah.
Let's get this X thing built and, and make sure the algorithm can recognize when people we were close with we
Yeah.
still have to talk to, but we might not choose to the extent we do now.
Right, right. So you had to make that tweak in the algorithm to, filter these people out.
More than a tweak for anyone who's been
Yeah.
in a strong relationship and then suddenly it's over, it is
Yeah.
like it's like you have there's like a cliff, and so we
Mhm.
had to figure out how deep that cliff had to be to make the algorithm um, be positive for everyone looking at who they know and love and trust.
Must be a nightmare for your tech team.
I mean, this is the way the conversation went. We're like, so the top
Yeah.
score in a network is 15. So
Yeah.
almost half the users had somebody who was an ex or something like that, an ex-employee, ex-business partner. We thought, okay, well, if they're a 15, like if they go down to a 7, what's that like? But a 7 is still out of 15, your top 250 people. So then I'm
Yeah.
like, well, do we make it negative? Is that a bad sign? Do we make it a 3? Um, and in the end, we had to just compromise, and we had to show the score, and then we had to show it reduced by 2/3, so you could see that it was hacked because you've identified it as the X factor. Our tech, the algorithm, it studies everyone you've ever met, like literally everyone you've ever emailed, WhatsApped, messaged, had a calendar
Yeah.
entry connected to LinkedIn, and it compares them all from your top down to the person you met once 6 years ago that sent you a WhatsApp that said, "Hey, it's Ankita," and then you never responded. And so when you start to look at all the peaks and valleys of like all the people you've met and how many stay, it's so fascinating to have text back out, not how you feel about the
Yeah.
people you're most in touch with, but actually the data that says actually you are in touch with this person much more than the person that you really wish you were. So it plays with the psychology of what building trust needs to be once you have this product.
And do these people who are actually trying your platform are happy sharing all these personal information, how convenient it is for them? Like
Well,
some
there.
people might have reservations.
So the tech itself is completely gated, meaning all 19 users, I have zero visibility as their connection and as the owner of the company into any of their data, who they know, what those scores are, what they're doing. We built something like different castles that never interact. And so none of the data is seen by anyone else. Only because I am their friend, they are invested with me, or an advisor, and they agreed to be an alpha user, are they actually opening up that door to say, hey, I got a problem. The second person here, that's my ex husband. And I go, I got that problem. My first person here, that's my ex wife. Let's try to solve this on the back end. So then the next 100 users we bring on don't have that problem. So there's nothing personal shared. It's part of the point of the tech. If you become a user, I never know how all the podcast guests that you had since you started this journey of doing this over
Yeah.
a year ago. I could Google it, and that's the AI part. The LLM can figure out every guest you promoted. But until I built trust with you, that is closed off for me. And only if you consent to connect me with somebody you think would be interested in my startup who was a guest on your show, if they consent and you consent, then the data that exists combined with the data you have as a user empowers both of us. But it's
Yeah.
everything has to be you choose. AI makes it easier. It's augmenting you, it's educating you, but you make the choice to support me after this podcast. I make the choice to introduce guests to you. You have somebody who listens in, who's a founder who wants to get involved actually in combating sex trafficking, and they write you, you make the choice to ask if I could introduce them to my unnamed friend. Then he makes the choice once I do to connect them. But if that is the right thing and everyone has permission, what is invisible now becomes practical and actionable. And that is how technology can work to support us and then lead us. It's a concept that is how my network works, just systematized.
Okay, so but basically, David, when you're looking at it from a business perspective, you're building a network or private network of people who are like, looking for something, right? And who are ready to expose their top 5 or 10 people in their network, right? But as a business, when you go out and do the marketing, right? You need to show some numbers about these many people connected, this is what happened, these are the use cases. So at that time you take consent from these people, or how does this happen? Because privacy is a big issue these days, right?
Only consent. We are
Okay.
working on the narratives that have for which users are currently benefiting, but I also have a decade of stories of making this work without the tech that now we've proven the tech could have done. And so the current users are figuring out how they're going to scale their lives with the tech and what they can share of their success, which they post on LinkedIn anyway. I raised more money for my fund. I got a new coaching client.
Right.
I chair a board and a major gift came in. None of those things are private. If somebody makes a private ask, you don't market that. But if somebody makes a public ask, something that once it occurs, you can celebrate, the tech is intended to make action from an ask. Therefore, everything that is actionable pretty much could be celebrated. And therefore, the marketing of this, the positioning of this is based on, did your needs get met in a way that built trust and got you further along to what you need to do? And any variation of that, from a school getting a donation from the bank to
Yeah.
host their fundraiser for the first grade to go on a field trip, that is a tangible ask. A family office doing a major deal to build, 20 new clean technology power plants, that is the same level of success, because it cannot just be about people making money. It has to be about the impact that people couldn't have achieved without other people involved.
So is it good to say, like, this is a smart address book that I have, which is built on relationship depth and my contacts and time I have spent with people.
It's not good to say that is the actual term for it, a smart address
Okay,
book. So
it's a
you have
smart
it
address book.
perfect. That is one of 11 features, but it is one of the two primary ones.
And in this, David, what happens is the biggest factor is reputation, right? So how do you basically um, show up when it matters?
Yeah. So I agree, as I am literally saying on this podcast, based on who you are and everything that you do. I would like to connect you with other guests for your podcast that might be really great for young entrepreneurs, not just in New York where I'm based, but all around the world, but especially people that come from where you're from and support entrepreneurs there. So if I say that and then I don't do it in the tech, you get to lower my reputation and I can't do anything about it. I promise you I'm going to
Oh,
do this. And then you write me, you WhatsApp me like, dude, like you said you connect me to your three friends. Like it never happened. That ask you made, you get to penalize me for it. And my reputation goes down. But let's say I get you to my friend Atul, who I think would be an incredible guest of your show. He's an exited founder, Indian wealth holder, one of my buddies, former musician, DJ. He's a really amazing guy and does a lot of charity work in India and globally. And if I connect you with them and you guys love each other, what he says helps so many of the guests listening in, then you get to rate me and my score could go up by like 5 points. And so if I
nothing.
keep doing that and I keep helping and my actions and my words are true, then eventually my reputation could be 1,000. And if I'm the opposite and my reputation's a 2, and then I write you and I've never met you, but we're both in this tech and I say, hey, I'd like to be a guest on this podcast. And we're both using SOAR and you see my reputation's a 2, you're not going to write me back. You're going to understand
Absolutely.
it. But if my reputation was 1,000, and then we can figure out with the tech that 3 of your prior guests are close contacts of mine, not that we met just randomly, you're not only going to take the time, you're going to prioritize your time with me because the tech can demonstrate I have a high reputation and a high value of trust to those that you know.
So as a techie, like I would name this like something as a reputation engine you have built,
Yes, so it's relational and reputation
right?
technology. There's reputation, there's ethics, there's a smart address book, there is an augmentation with AI. There's a whole system of this, and that X Factor also has a blocked list, meaning if you hate somebody for the actions, you were at an event and somebody's kid was there and you saw them like pushing or like hitting the kid, you can block them in this tech. But what if they're also an investor and they're trying to invest in somebody's company? What if you could protect that person from an investor who's a child abuser?
Yeah.
Our reputation is one thing. So every part of this idea that this is why it's a system, that all these actions are interwoven and they all come back to one measurement. Do you continue to choose to spend time with somebody or not? And based on that, what happens when you two engage? That's the whole user psychology. Everything else just is the system to support an ask and an answer, building more trust or reducing that trust.
And David, like one more thing that comes into my mind about going to this platform is I'm going to go there and I'm going to put in my details and a lot of information about my contacts. Uh, then there might be spams or leaks, or there might be cold outreach from people whom I don't know. So how do you protect that?
So think about it as we built, as you became a user, a castle. And that castle has 3 modes of security. It also has 3 layers of consent to work with your data with the person. So you can't find another user on this platform that you don't know. You can't cold write somebody because they show up as a mutual contact of your friend. None of that is permissible. You can connect
Okay.
with the people that you know, and they can connect with the people that they know, with one exception. You choose to be in a community, in a group, and whether anonymously or publicly, you choose to join that group because you believe in the people and the values. And by those shared values, you can connect with those people, and they can ask for your consent to connect with you, to make an ask of you, but you have to choose to be in the group and you have to choose to accept it every time.
Superb. And David, like you've been talking about building relationships first, right? So, what are your pro tips for do's and don'ts for building relationships?
The number one thing that people have to understand when they build a relationship is give first, don't ask first. And when you are actually curious to the other person and a little bit vulnerable, if they respond back, dig deeper. If not, don't. And the more you build a diverse network, meaning you don't talk to people who look like you, talk like you, are your same age, race, socioeconomic, geography, heritage, faith, whatever
Yeah.
it might be, the more opportunity you create. So if you approach connection with a diverse mindset and in a mindset of how can I be curious and vulnerable enough to somebody to be generous to them, then the minute that they give back the fifth principle, which is gratitude or honor, the minute that they honor your action by building trust with them, you have a strong, trusted relationship. It doesn't happen overnight, but it lasts way longer than these temporal, transitory people in our lives that come and
Yeah.
go and don't actually really add much value.
Right. Right. And uh, one more question I have is like, when we go into these networking groups and where a lot of entrepreneurs meet, everybody's talking about your network is your net worth. What do you want to say
Yeah.
about that?
So that is the truth of it. And that was when network was the term. But your net worth are the relationships and the people who would speak on your behalf, who would champion you when you're not in the room. They're the people who will take a call when you fell flat on your face. They're the people, if you're experiencing something horrible like the death of a loved one or something else, will be there for you without an expectation of return. And when you do this more intentionally, your own self work, and to insist upon that elevation with the people around you, then you gain real power. So it's not just a net worth, but it's an intentional, curated group of powerful people around you. Power does not mean they are richer than you and more connected than you and that they have everything that they need. The
Yeah.
power is entirely a measurement of trust, because what has happened in my life for 25 years of my professional career is the person I least expected to help me, that I didn't think maybe would have been worth the time, that I simply had this approach with. They've opened up more doors for more of my success than the person I thought standing right by me all that time, who loves me, trusts me, who I spend the time with. That person has rarely opened up a door, and my community has opened up way more.
Right, right. And this is one notion that every new entrepreneur has. Like, if I am in the group of millionaires and billionaires somehow, right, then they will push me to become a millionaire or billionaire one day. Yeah.
And when you're around a lot of wealth, which is fortunately you're not a lot of what my world is, you also start to understand that they're just people, also with needs. It's why whatever the tier of the person, I ask how I can help them, and the wealthier the person, the more rare it is they've ever been asked if somebody could help them. And that's what I did with that billionaire that I met at that conference I alluded to earlier, who actually expressed real empathy about my father. We had a really great talk. They want to help me because of their loss. And then I asked them what they needed, and they finally told me. And I smiled, and they said, "Well, why are you smiling?" I was like, "Because I can help you." And they don't believe it. Like, they think I need to send them a contract. and here's my
Yeah.
commission. And I was like,
Yeah.
no, what you're doing is incredible. You need to meet my other friend. And then this person just started to understand I didn't have an agenda. But
Right.
because this person's super smart, they said, but you're going to come calling someday back to me, aren't you? And I said, I am. There's going to be somebody that I've met that you can help. That's not me. And they were shocked that I didn't want money from them. I didn't pitch my startup. I didn't want to offer them my services. I simply offered help and said, whenever it comes around, would they help somebody if they can that I can't help?
Wow.
So I'm going to pause there and then say, a week later, I get an intro, which is a call I actually have later today after we record this podcast with a major VC, major, like you don't get the meeting. And I got the meeting in 2 days from that intro because that VC has been asking for something like SOAR for 5 years and has never found it. So I got the tangible. I got what I want. I got a pitch with a major investor who might change the scope of my company.
Right.
And he wanted to meet me because I didn't ask. I only offered. And then I delivered value to somebody everyone wants something from. This is the mindset, whether you're in a room with a bunch of entrepreneurs or a bunch of millionaires or billionaires or politicians. It doesn't matter the room. Don't make somebody seem like an opportunity. Build a relationship regardless of the outcome, because the more you do it, when you fall, those people will pick you back up.
Wow, that is a very strong message and beautiful insight, because this is going to change the mindset of people listening, right? Just don't go there pitching your product and service. Just don't go there thinking that this person, if I can't sign contract with them, they are of no use to me. You never know in how and what type they can come and help with you, right?
You never know, because the only way you
Never know.
do is actually getting to know the person.
Getting to know the person, and that is what we don't do actually.
It-
Okay.
Think about, yeah, one final point, knowing we've gone long for this. If you think about that time you felt actually valued by somebody who connected with you, who they heard you, you felt loved and accepted, it's such a rare thing, but it lights up your entire day or your week.
Absolutely,
If we,
absolutely.
if we each did that to somebody else once a month, it starts to shift around. Then those people bring people of value to us. You just have to be
Right.
patient and know in the end, the ROI, the return is better because it's intentional from the beginning.
Superb. Superb. And David, a little bit about your family. So how your family has supported in your journey.
I got really lucky with my parents. I mean,
Yeah.
coming from a middle class background, middle class in the United States, which is admittedly way better than most people's upbringing around the world. I've had parents who have always supported every vision of what I wanted to do. They've seen me driven. They've always been my stopgap, my backup when I can. They are not super wealthy, so this was a moderate amount of support, but they've always seen me driven to do what I say I'm going to do, and I've been really lucky to have them. I have an incredible partner. We have incredible children, and everything that I do is the same thing, which is to figure out how I can be helpful. And since I was a little kid, my mom was always pointed out, I've always been that same. I want to support the person who can't be supported. A wrong is being done to them who doesn't have the opportunities I have. And I've been fortunate now in my mid 40s to get to a place where I can do that every single day.
And David, what do you want our viewers to take away from your story?
If everyone takes away that practice, just that focus and goal, that they can be more intentional with the people around them and help them, our world will eventually get to a better place that we all need it to. We will be less lonely. We will build opportunities with each other, and we will understand that gratitude and kindness and curiosity and vulnerability are not nice to haves. They're must haves in the way we should be. If that's the takeaway and people start to practice that, and my book, Orchestrating Connection, does go into all of this, I would hope that somebody finds value and then they say thank you to you for allowing me to be on and hopefully helping them in their journey in some way.
Amazing, amazing. I will definitely read the book Orchestrating Connections, and I will request all our viewers to just read that book, because what we've spoke with David today is absolutely a game changer, right? It's going to make you a better entrepreneur and a better human being also, because when you start giving, it's a different feeling altogether. And David, before we let you go, two questions. First one, imagine yourself today and imagine David 10 years back, right? What advice would you give to the David 10 years back?
To not take anything personally. When I build trust with somebody and then they fall out of my life, I feel like
Yeah,
they didn't like me, I did something wrong. Most times it's nothing to do with that. And I took too much too personally when I was younger. I'm still learning, but I'm getting better at it.
awesome. That was a real honest reflection. And yours is a journey from chaos to clarity. So, how do you define clarity today?
I would say I'm still in a lot in the chaos, even though I might seem very clear with it, because who knows what's going to happen from the book and the
Yeah,
startup and my network and working on fumes to make it all work. But the clarity is, I love the journey that I'm on. Whether I thrive in it or have moderate success, I love the every part of it every day because I figured out the one thing I could do to help other people that can actually be and work at scale. And I hope I achieve it, but I love the process of it.
that's amazing. Love the process of being there, and uh, good things will happen. So it's been an amazing conversation, David, with you, and you've given some such beautiful insights of how to build your network or relationships, I would say, from today. And I'm sure our viewers got a lot of great insights. If you guys like this episode, please do hit the subscribe button and the bell icon so that you can get notifications about the new episodes every Thursday, 7 p.m. Also, if you have any questions or comments about this, please do drop them. Me and David would be very happy to answer them for you. Uh, you were listening to Chaos to Clarity. I am your host, Piyush Thacker, and I'll see you in the next one.